Welcome to the Cambridge Tech Podcast, talking all things technology from the heart of the UK's tech capital. Here are your hosts, Faye Holland and James Parton.
I'm Faye.
And I'm James. Why are we still working? Isn't it just about to be Christmas?
It's dedication and commitment, James. That's what it is.
It is. Yeah, it is. Well, thank you for listening. I'm sure you're probably wrapping presents or getting those last minute emails out the way. It's going to be a good episode nonetheless.
It certainly is. And as you'd expect, it's pretty light on tech news this week. So let's jump straight into the episode where we find out more about Barclays and the Eagle Labs with Sam Woods.
So Sam, welcome to the show. We always like to get to know our guests a little bit better. So can you just kind of walk us through your career and how you got to being Director of Technology, Media and Telecoms for UK Corporate Banking at Barclays? There's a snappy job title.
It's just a little bit of a long one, isn't it? Hi both, thank you so much for having me. My director role sounds a lot fancier than it is. Essentially, my role is a relationship director, so I look after a portfolio of clients within our corporate bank, make sure that they're happy. And most of those clients are based here in Cambridge, and they're tech-focused businesses that turn over typically over 50 million. But as to my journey through Barclays, so I actually joined the bank back in 2012 as a fresh-faced grad. I spent some time in our head office in London, and then I spent the next 11 years over here in Cambridge working in real estate. So focusing on our landlord clients, so those with commercial properties or residential properties, those developing or just kind of renting out properties. So it's been a massive change over the last year to move away from that kind of real tangible security piece over to technology, which is often quite ideas driven. We perhaps haven't got any security that the bank can take. It's all very new to me, but it's been a fantastic learning curve.
I mean, a lot of our listeners are interested in entrepreneurship and startups and technology in general. But why don't we just spend a little bit of time, because you've got that corporate experience and you've gone through that kind of career growth within Barclays. What's that like? What's it like being inside a corporate environment? How do you spot opportunities to get promoted and change roles? Because I guess one of the things that might not be immediately obvious is just how much variety there is of different roles within large organisations.
Yeah, so Barclays absolutely blows my mind still to this day at just the number of things that you can do within the organisation. So you can have any kind of job you can think of within a bank. And I think a lot of people don't think much beyond the branch and the experience they have there. Within my experience, I've always been very lucky that I've had a lot of advocates. And I think that's always important for a corporate career, to have people that back you and that believe in you and that you can turn to for those questions that you feel aren't necessarily appropriate for everybody. I like to call them stupid questions. There's no such thing, but the people that you can really trust and fall back on. So I've been extremely lucky to have people back in my career. I've also been, in some cases, in the right place at the right time. But I think a lot of it is about promoting yourself, making sure that the right people are seeing you, making sure that you are taking steps to add value above and beyond your kind of day job. It's really easy. I think when I joined the bank, there were like 140,000 staff. There's quite a few less now, but it's really hard to get noticed in that kind of environment. So you have to work out what your niche is, what you're good at, really play on those strengths and really get involved in the stuff that you're passionate about, because you can get lost in the corporate kind of bureaucracy and all of the stuff that we get bogged down with. If you can find stuff you're passionate about and you're willing to kind of push through, it makes all the difference. And for me, that's really working with clients, getting to know their business and really making a difference to their kind of day-to-day.
Yeah, so you talk about kind of passion and stuff you're excited about. Being in this role now, working in technology and media and telecoms, is that always been something you've been interested in? You found yourself in that position and had to kind of skill up, or what's your background around the tech side of things?
So I can't claim to be any great tech expert. I certainly do tell my clients that when I go out to see them, I really want them to get down to fundamentals and telling me what they do and how they do it. But I guess what I have always been is a bit of a why child. My mum would definitely emphasise that. I always want to know how stuff works. I want to know what's going on in different segments and sectors. And that's also the great thing about Barclays, is that we have these industry alignments. So you can move between industries and learn loads about an industry that perhaps you'd never get to work in otherwise, because typically you're a banker and you stick to the finance side. So I'm always interested in any company I can get to know and get behind the kind of glass doors of. But what I love about the job is that you feel like you're a banker, but you also feel like you're part of that business as well. So you become a trusted advisor. You can ask the questions of the team once you get to know them. Tell me what you do. Tell me how I can help you do that better. What do you need from your bank? And really just get to the crux of what it is that a business needs to grow.
So going onto the TMT role, can you just go into a bit more detail as to what that does entail? So is it just finding out more about companies and the members that you've got? Is that what the role is, or are you doing analysis of things and predictions? Do you get into that side as well?
There's a little bit of everything in my role. So I will go away and act as a bit of a messenger back to the bank to say that this is what the client is doing, this is what they're hoping to achieve, these are the financial predictions that they've given us, what do we think we can do to support them? But it is very much that straddle role of sitting and understanding every bit of the client's finances and what they need, and basically getting down to the what solution can we give you that will just make your life easier. That's all I ever want to do. Banking, for all its pretense and purpose, is moving money, receiving money, sending money, online banking, all of the kind of stuff that we do day to day as personal customers. It just gets a little bit more complicated and people make it a little bit more advanced when you get to the corporate stage. And what I really want to do is enable my clients to do that in the least stress way possible. They've got so much more to concentrate on than whether they can make payroll, how complex that process is. So I spend a lot of time trying to work out the best products and the people within Barclays to introduce them to as well. I'm really lucky that I have partner colleagues that I can take out that are experts in certain areas, and I can say to a client, you've expressed an interest in FX, you want to know how that works better, here is an expert for you who can talk you through all of that. So it's about finding the right people in the bank to help them at the right moment and making sure that we as a bank are coming across in the best way possible.
Are there any common threads that you see in the conversations that you're having specifically with tech companies?
So it tends to be around, so I look after a lot of clients in Cambridge and they all know each other. That's the best thing about Cambridge, right, is that all of the companies, everyone knows everyone. And it'll typically be about challenges that they might be having. So whether they're a subsector like gaming, for example, talking about the gaming sector and how the struggles that they're having. And the great thing is I can have a conversation with one client. When I go to see the next client that's in that subsector, that conversation continues because I can sort of share what I've heard before without divulging anything that's private and confidential. I can carry on that conversation and really add a bit of value to say, well, your competitors actually feel the same. This is how they're thinking about it. How are you thinking about it? And you become sort of your own ecosystem of helping all of the clients to work better.
No, that's great. So we're going to talk about Barclays Eagle Labs in a moment. But just before we do that, before we started recording, I was saying actually my experience with Barclays was possibly started a decade ago with Jane Galvin. But it is a very busy space. It's like in my space, there are an awful lot of marketing and PR people out there. There's also a lot of banks. How does Barclays position and differentiate itself?
So that's a really interesting point, and it's something we work on all the time because our ultimate ambition is to be the number one bank. So in my segment, to be the number one corporate bank, to be the number one UK investment bank, to be the number one wealth bank, whichever segment you look at. The way that we have tried to be different to our competitors is number one through service, making sure that we are doing everything that our clients need us to do in a timely fashion, in a way that adds value to them. And what we have seen from some of our competitors is maybe they've moved away from the one-on-one model, so perhaps they don't have a named contact, and that really puts us aside as someone to prefer over other providers. Some of the other things that we do, so I've talked a little bit about the industry alignment, but making sure that your banking partner also knows a lot about your sector. So you're not just getting somebody generic, you're getting somebody that's having conversations regularly with clients that are just like you and can therefore add that value. So there's a lot of pieces that we do to try and stand out. And some of it's brand, right? We've been around for over 325 years. So a lot of it, we're riding on that fantastic brand that we've got in the UK, and some of it is just showing how we are different and sometimes better than our competitors.
So the 325 years, you think maybe trumps some of the challenger banks? Because there's a lot of challenger banks now around as well, aren't there?
I think that there's a lot of fear in when you think about finances, things like cybersecurity, things like keeping your money safe. And I think that we have had that reputation as a steady ship. We have, touch wood, obviously, we've never had a major incident. I think that when you think of the older brands, they tend to just come with a little bit more trust. And I'll hands up say there are some things that the challenger banks do so much better than we do. And that's just by nature of the fact that they're not bogged down by systems and processes that probably outdate me, to be honest. But we've been there, we've done it, we've seen all of the things that can happen. We've been through multiple financial cycles. So we tend to be a trusted pair of hands.
Perfect. So, as Faye alluded to, it's obviously Cambridge Tech Podcast, so we want to spend a good amount of time talking about how Barclays supports the tech ecosystem and startups. So why don't we start with Eagle Labs and just exploring some of the history. So Eagle Labs was created, I think, 10 years ago now. Can you walk us through kind of the what you said about being a why person? So what was the why behind Eagle Labs and the vision behind that? And what kind of impact has the last decade of support from Barclays given to the UK tech ecosystem?
So Eagle Labs started its life back in 2015, actually in Cambridge, which is fantastic, right? We are the originating point of Eagle Labs, and the banks over time have gone through changes and reduced a bit of presence on the high street. I think we're all aware of that. I think at the time we had spaces where we perhaps couldn't exit them. We owned the building or we still had time left on the lease. And the bank was looking for ways to give back to the community. And so the first Eagle Lab was really launched with that idea that you can bring more of the community into the space. It had a 3D printer, which at the time was absolutely mind-blowing. I remember everybody from the office going down to make key rings. And it had just an ability for businesses to come in and to learn something new and to talk to different people and have a sense of community. The following year, so 2016, tons of these Eagle Labs opened. It was really like a snowball. Once one started, it just got bigger and bigger. But what has happened over time is that they've morphed into being much more specific sector-wise. So it started off with just kind of programs that the Eagle Labs were running. So there was one focused on law. There was a program focused on female founders. It struck the team that there was a lot of benefit in having those specialisms. So up in Manchester, we have our Dish Eagle Lab, and that focuses purely on cybersecurity. It's got partnerships with Manchester City Council, not to go off on a tangent about Manchester, but it is an impressive site. It's got partnerships with the council, it's got partnerships with GCHQ, it's got partnerships with the local university, and it has become a community for cybersecurity businesses. And even when those businesses outgrow the space that the Eagle Lab can offer them, they still come back because they love the community and they love being able to chat to other founders and other people working in the sector. So that's a really great example of how this has worked so well. Over time as well, it's moved away from just being the physical spaces that we offer. So Eagle Labs has launched a demo directory. So that's a way for startup businesses to basically upload their profile online, make a video showing what they do, what have they founded, what tech are they creating, and then investors can go onto that platform and just look through all of the different initiatives and find people that they want to invest in. The demo directory also holds days where those founders can present to a room full of investors, hundreds of thousands of pounds that have been invested in these businesses because of that connection through the demo directory. The other thing that they've started to do is to create communities online. So we know that not everybody is going to be local to an Eagle Lab that perhaps suits their sector. So creating communities online where people can chat and share ideas and just kind of mentor each other through the challenges of being a startup and a scale up. So it's been fantastic. It's really blossomed from what was initially, what can we use this space for, to a really value add community initiative.
Technology moves fast, and now so can you. Discover Polestar, the all-electric performance brand vehicles redefining how we drive. Precision engineering, minimalist design, and software that evolves with you. Experience it at Holden Group in Norwich and Bury St Edmunds, or let us bring the test drive to your door. Proud sponsors of the Cambridge Tech Podcast. Polestar, electric performance redefined. Discover at holdengroup.co.uk/Polestar.
So that's a great example of how you're helping the startups. And do you feel that you help the startups to scale as well?
Yeah, so I think the great thing about Barclays is, so let's take an example of somebody that's banked with us since they were a student and they've decided to start their own business. So we can offer them their business bank account. They could get space to work at the Eagle Lab and have that community built through the Eagle Lab. They can use the demo directory to find investors for their business. And then as they start to grow through that process, raise more money, become a larger business, then we have the whole ecosystem in place for them to step up to the next level of support that they might need. So I've got colleagues that sit within our business banking team who will look after high growth clients and who will spend time making sure that those clients have got the support that they need. And then it just goes all the way up to IPO. In fact, the tagline that we're going for at the moment is from idea to IPO. We can support every single stage of that process for a tech company. And that's absolutely incredible. And that's not just the business that the founder might have, that's also the personal side, right? So mortgages, or if they are looking for wealth advice at the point of exit, anything that they might touch upon from a finance perspective through that journey, we can help with.
It is impressive, but I guess complex at the same time to try and make that bite-sized with people and give that information at the right time. A lot of our audience are either entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs, students maybe. So could you do a quick flyby of what the Eagle Labs proposition is right now in terms of some of the programs that you offer and the support and the verticals you're focusing on and all those kinds of things?
There's 43 UK Eagle Lab locations, and some of them will be generic and some of them will be sector specific. But some of the propositions that are run out of all of the Eagle Labs and that people can get involved with virtually or in person. So Demo Directory we've already touched on, and the Eagle Lab community. There's an entrepreneur academy online on the Eagle Lab. It's free to sign up to, and it basically offers courses in anything from skills like presenting, which can often be quite uncomfortable for people. If they are an ideas person, they've had this fantastic idea, it's very uncomfortable to go from being the ideas person and really focusing on that to actually having to present to a room. So we try to do a lot around giving people the tools they'll need to be able to go out and present, to understand the finances that their businesses might have, to talk about how to connect with people better, networking skills, all of those things that I think especially in the corporate world, take for granted, we try and teach through online courses that are free. What we also then have is growth programs. So one of those is the Funding Readiness Program. So that's talking to founders about funding options, shaping their pitch, helping them to build out their business plan. So some of the stuff that really legitimizes your business. We've got things like the Female Founder Accelerator, kind of names on the tin, but, focusing on female founders and making sure that they have the tools they need to go out and raise money. Black Founders Accelerator, again, there's not always been open doors for Black founders, and we're trying to encourage them to go out and knock on more doors and to give them the skills that they need to do so. There's scale-up programs, so it's an invite-only program, but it basically brings founders in order to give them the shift from founder to CEO. So how do you make that transition? What do you need to know about products? What do you need to know about sales and marketing? What do you need to know about supply chains? How do you expand into new markets? So all of those little things that come into play, and I think loads of people find out through trial and error, and it's probably greatly uncomfortable. We just want to give a taste of that so people feel a bit more empowered. Past that, then we have a scale-up elevator, which we then invite founders on, and it's got a founders retreat. It's basically about building that level of community for startups and scale-ups, just to basically say, here is a trusted group you can share your experiences with and who you can basically rely on and use going forward as your network.
With all those programs and activities, you must have such great insights into the startup ecosystem. What would you say are your top things that you've found out, whether it's strengths or weaknesses on the startup ecosystem? And what's your view on scale up? We always talk about the scale up funding issues, the gaps that are there. Do you believe that from experience that you've seen?
I don't think I'd ever really appreciated is just how fantastic as a country we are at innovation and ideas, and we've got world-leading universities, and we are chucking out some amazing people that can do some amazing things. On the flip side of that, as these businesses get bigger, I think at the starting stage, they're finding it easy to get money in the door. But as they start to accelerate that growth, there just isn't enough money within the UK to help support that growth. I think I read somewhere that it was something like they would need 15 billion in order to achieve their growth ambitions annually, startups in the UK. And that's obviously just not happening at the moment. And what that leads to, I think, is stuff like talent drain. So we're really lucky in Cambridge because there's so many amazing, talented people around, and there's a lot of work going on for the infrastructure for those people to remain in the city. But if Google or whoever are knocking on your door and offering you 6-figure salaries to go and work for them, it's really hard to stay at a startup. So I think we've got a lot of work to do around keeping people in the startups at that next stage. I think we're brilliant at the initial kickoff, and then we start to lose a bit of that momentum as it gets bigger. And we are, I think it's like third globally for innovation, and yet we are being absolutely overshadowed by the US in terms of kind of money that's available to pump into companies that are reaching their growth aspirations.
And is there anything that Barclays can do to try and help that, to not necessarily lobby government for it, but, what do you think Barclays' contribution is?
So we do lobby government. That's definitely something that happens at the leadership side. But what we've done really recently is we've launched an innovation bank, and that the idea being that there is one brand and one team within the bank that can support you through the whole stage, and they'll have access to VCs, they'll have access to investors, and it's all about, for us, community, connecting people with the right people that they need to talk to, as well as trying to kind of influence things on a more macro level within the UK, getting people to invest more into what might be considered riskier ventures. The problem we have in the UK is we're so regulatory driven, and I don't doubt that's absolutely necessary, especially in the banking world. But what that means is that some of our insurance companies and our pension funds and all of those types of things don't necessarily feel empowered to invest in UK startups. And then we just lose a bit of the momentum, and we lose a lot of great businesses over to overseas acquisitions. Or I think that we all know that there's been a number of disappointing IPOs that have happened in New York rather than over here, just because the companies know that they can get a bigger multiple on their value.
To turn the conversation to a bit more Cambridge specific, you touched on the fact that the Eagle Lab in Cambridge was actually the first one in the network. You also touched on the fact that some of the Eagle Labs are like vertical specific, and the Cambridge one is that, isn't it? It's focused on climate tech. So it relaunched, I think, I'm trying to think, was it about 18 months ago or something like that? Yeah. What's been the reaction to that, focusing on climate tech, and any success stories you can share? And obviously you partner with Carbon 13 as well, haven't you?
Well, before I start, have you two been over to it? Have you had a tour? Yeah. It's great.
I went to the original one with the 3D printer, and we actually had a team building day there, a corporate team building there. So it was great fun. So yeah, definitely.
Great. That's always good to say. I was going to take you on a tour if not. I was just going to turn up and take you on a tour.
Well, we don't mind, do we?
I'll go again. Yeah.
So the site was retrofitted, as you said, that finished up about 18 months ago. So before, what had happened was we had a branch on the ground floor and we had the Eagle Lab space above. The branch closed down and they decided they wanted to incorporate the whole space. So working with Carbon 13, they have done the building blows my mind. So on the roof there is 128 panels, and then there's an additional 90 on a canopy in the car park. What those panels do is they don't just generate electricity, they also generate heat. So the building is almost completely self-sufficient, and we're constantly calculating carbon outputs from using Carbon 13. They're a fantastic company that do so much great work with us. That system that's on the roof was actually provided by Naked Energy. They are a company that was supported through the Barclays Sustainable Impact Capital Investment Programme. So we have a pot of money that we're trying to give to climate companies that are operating in clean tech. So they're actually one of ours. So that's fantastic, right, to see a company that we've supported actually come and retrofit one of our buildings with us. There's really simple things that people didn't necessarily used to think about. So the doors, for example, so you go through 2 sets of doors to access the building, and that's to stop heat leakage. And it's such a simple idea, but it just means that the building is much more energy efficient than perhaps it would otherwise be. The toilets on the ground floor, I don't know if you use them, but they're a little bit like being in a plane. And the way that they flush, so I know it's not the most savoury thing to talk about, but the way that they flush actually saves something like 83 litres of water a day. Like, it's crazy the impact that those small changes can have. And bang in the middle on the ground floor when you go in, they have got one of the old e-cargo bikes that they've refurbished into a showcase space. So when I went, there was everything from eco-friendly sanitary ware to wine bottles which were made out of plastic. And I was like, why are we making wine bottles out of plastic? It just seems counterintuitive to everything that we're trying to do. But it turns out, because they can be transported, you can get many more in a box, they're much lighter, they're much less likely to break. Actually, from a carbon footprint perspective, these wine bottles are much, much better for the environment. I never knew about that until I went in there, and Paul, who runs the lab there, is amazing. He's so enthusiastic about climate tech and investing in it. So yeah, if anybody listening to this hasn't been, reach out to Paul. He will more than happily show you around because it really is an amazing space. And the companies that work there, again, much like the Manchester lab space that we have, love the sense of community. And if they get big enough and they leave the space, they come back for events and for things like that because they just love it. They love the sense of community. They love kind of helping each other. And I think it makes all the difference to have a workspace that reflects that change as well.
And do they still all write on the wall as well in the meeting? Okay, good. Yeah. I love that. So that it's well worth going just to look at the companies that have been on there and that write the details on the wall.
Yeah, it's so lovely, isn't it? It just gives the space really like a personal touch. And we've got a new head of corporate banking starting actually, and he's coming down tomorrow. And I know that he's spending some time there tomorrow just to see just amazing work that we've done.
I think last two questions then, one more about Barclays and entrepreneurs and how they can get involved with the Innovation Bank or Eagle Labs or whatever you want to send them to. So that's the first one. And then the second one, you've done your first stint in the TMT role. What are you going to do? What are your plans? And is there anything that the audience can help you with?
Okay, great. Well, if I take the first one, so entrepreneurs getting involved with Barclays. So from an Eagle Lab perspective, going online, looking up Eagle Labs, you can find the Eagle Lab community space on there. So if you just want to get involved from a virtual perspective and nothing else more than that, you can sign up to the community there and meet like-minded founders that you can chat to. Absolutely fantastic. If you want to look at space or being part of the community actually in person or attending events that the Eagle Labs are hosting, they host tons and tons of events. I think it's something like 45,000 people attended events last year. So absolutely incredible numbers that are coming through the doors. If that's something that founders want to do, then reaching out to local Eagle Lab managers, they're all listed online. They'll be more than happy to assist and to give you a tour of the site if you want to have one. And then from an innovation banking perspective, it can be as easy as if you want an online banking, you want to go online and open a bank account, you can do that. That's really easy. You can kind of self-service. But if you go online, it will also teach you all of the people that you can talk to about having more levels of support. And the bank is really committed to identifying those companies that need the extra support. So I think it's a bit of a cop-out to say just go online and have a look, but there's so much on there about how ways you can get involved with the bank and reach out to us there.
Perfect. And what about for you? With
for
the
me,
TMT role?
I think the great thing about the tech space in Cambridge is that everyone knows everyone. And I've listened to your podcast a few times and I know that you guys see kind of the same people going around and you come across companies that know companies. And that's been fantastic. It can sometimes feel a little bit hard to get in if you're on the outside. And I think that the first 12 months I've had has been about doing that, getting in the door. So my next kind of aim is really to become known as the tech banker in Cambridge. That would be the ultimate ambition. So when people think about, I need a bank account in the tech space, they think of my name. That would be fantastic. And I think just driving the Barclays brand across the city, because we've not done enough of that, I don't think, and we should do more because there's some fantastic things, and we just talked about a load of them. There's some fantastic things that we offer and we don't shout about them enough. So I just want to get out, meet as many people as possible, help some businesses if I can in any way possible. And yeah, just keep sharing the good word on Barclays and what we can do.
Well, amazing. I mean, thanks so much for your time today, Sam. It's been great to have you on.
Today's show was produced by Joe Donaghy of Cambridge TV and supported by our media partner Business Weekly. The Cambridge Tech Podcast is available on all major podcast platforms and on cambridgetechpodcast.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please give it a 5-star review. It'll really help others discover the show.